So much of our digital life is built on a foundation of trust. We trust the apps on our phones, we trust the companies holding our data, and we trust all these invisible systems that just work. But what happens when that trust shatters? Well, we're about to step onto the digital battleground, and we're going to look at everything from the subtle traps set just for you to the huge systemic failures that threaten all of us.
So, here's the game plan. We'll start small, with the dangers knocking right on your personal digital front door. Then, we're going to zoom out and see how even the biggest corporate giants can get taken down. After that, we'll get to the good stuff, how the defenders are finally starting to fight back. Then, we'll look at the fragile foundations our entire digital world is built on. And we'll end with the really big question: who actually gets to write the rules for our future?
Okay, so let me ask you something, straight up. Just think for a second. How many apps and browser extensions do you have installed right now? 5? 10? Maybe more? And do you really know what every single one of them is doing in the background? The honest truth is, some of them are probably doing a lot more than you think.
And that leads us right into our first section, your digital front door. We're talking about the immediate threats, the ones that are aimed squarely at you.
So here's the playbook, right? This is how they get you. It's not some obvious virus. It's way sneakier. It's a trick of trust. You download some helpful tool, maybe a VPN or a speed test, and guess what? It works perfectly. But while you're trusting it, it's basically a digital pickpocket, quietly siphoning off your usernames and passwords for hundreds of websites. It's a scary reminder that sometimes the biggest threats are the ones we let right in the door ourselves.
Now that kind of direct theft is one thing, but there's another, maybe even bigger threat, when a company you trust has a data leak. See, these leaks, they basically hand-deliver all the ammunition hackers need to launch incredibly sophisticated, targeted attacks. And a perfect, chilling case study for this is what happened to the users of the Ledger crypto wallet. So get this, the original hack wasn't even on Ledger itself. It was on one of their partners. But that didn't matter. Scammers got their hands on real names and home addresses. And they used that info to mail out these incredibly professional-looking letters, right to people's mailboxes. They weren't just asking for a password. They were trying to trick people into giving up the keys to the kingdom, that secret 24-word recovery phrase. It's a wild example of how a purely digital breach can suddenly show up as a very real, very physical threat.
These individual threats are scary, for sure, but they're just the tip of the iceberg. So now we're zooming out to see what happens when the giants fall. Welcome to Section 2, where we're going to look at the massive cascading ripple effect of corporate breaches.
So, what in the world does a cyber attack have to do with building a car? Turns out, everything. When Jaguar Land Rover got hit, it wasn't just some servers that went down. Their entire supply chain was paralyzed. They had to actually stop production, which caused the number of cars they could ship to just plummet by a staggering 43% in 1 quarter.
And yeah, that kind of physical disruption, it comes with a very real price tag. That attack cost the company almost £200 million in just a few months. It's just a brutal reminder that in our world, ones and zeros can absolutely bring an assembly line to a screeching halt and just crater a company's bottom line.
You know, you'd think an organization that literally shoots rockets into space would have security like Fort Knox, right? But the truth is, nobody is immune. Not even the European Space Agency, one of the most advanced scientific organizations on the planet. They got breached.
And it was bad. Hackers claimed they stole 200 gigabytes of data. We're talking source code, internal documents, the whole shebang. And they just put it all up for sale on these underground forums. It really drives the point home. If an agency that puts satellites into orbit can get hit, anyone can.
Okay, it's not all doom and gloom, I promise. Because the defenders are getting smarter. They're getting more aggressive. And that brings us to Section 3, hacking the hackers. We're going to explore this really cool shift from just sitting back and waiting for an attack to actively fighting back.
For years, cybersecurity felt like building a fortress and just hoping nobody found a crack in the wall. That was passive defense. But that's changing. Now the best defense is a good offense. Instead of just building higher walls, defenders are setting traps. They're actually inviting the attackers into a controlled space to turn the tables on them.
I love this analogy someone used. They said it's like setting a trap for a burglar, but you use fake jewelry. The goal isn't just to stop them at the door. You want to lure them inside so you can watch them, study their every move, and learn their methods. And that's exactly what one security firm did.
So here's how it went down. Researchers at a company called Security saw hackers sniffing around their systems. But instead of blocking them, they built what's called a honeypot, basically a fake database filled with juicy-looking but totally worthless data.
The hackers took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. They even went on the messaging app Telegram to brag about their awesome hack, all while the defenders were quietly recording their tools, their techniques, their IP addresses, and then just handing it all over to law enforcement. Genius. And this proactive mindset isn't just about setting these clever traps. It's also about making the fundamental tools we all use way more secure. We're seeing it with things like Microsoft making its disk encryption faster and stronger, and the Python software library, a core part of so many apps, beefing up security to stop malicious code. It's all about making the entire system tougher from the ground up.
Okay, let's pull the camera back one last time to the widest view yet. We've covered personal security, we've covered corporate security, but what about the systems that we all depend on every single day without even thinking about it? This is Section 4, the System's Fragile Foundation, where we look at what happens when our invisible infrastructure starts to break.
Take GPS. We think of it for maps on our phones, but it is absolutely critical for aviation, and it's becoming unreliable. The number of flights reporting major GPS interference just skyrocketed last year. We're talking about pilots having to switch to backup systems, even whole runways getting shut down. It's a huge problem.
And just like GPS, the cloud is another one of those invisible things we just take for granted. But the cloud isn't some magical thing up in the sky, right? It has a very real, very physical home, these massive data centers. And with the explosion in demand for AI, the fight over these huge, power-hungry buildings is really starting to heat up. Local communities are pushing back, and they're winning. In just one quarter, nearly $100 billion worth of data center projects were either paused or flat out rejected because of local concerns about noise, about energy use, about the environmental impact. It's a huge reminder that our digital world is built on a very real and often very unwelcome physical foundation.
All of this, the hacks, the defenses, the cracking infrastructure, it leads us to our final section, the biggest picture of all. Section 5, drawing the new rules. Because with technology moving this fast, we are in a constant battle over ethics, over control, and over who gets to decide what our digital future looks like.
And nowhere is this battle more urgent than with AI. Take Grok, the AI that's built right into X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. Reports found that it was being used to create massive amounts of non-consensual, sexualized images of women, just by digitally altering real photos that people had posted. What's so new and dangerous here is the scale and the accessibility. It takes what was once a fringe, difficult-to-do form of abuse and puts it on a mainstream platform just a single click away. But as technology creates new problems, it can also create new solutions. I mean, look at the fight for data privacy. It used to be basically impossible to get these shadowy data brokers to delete your personal information. You had to hunt them down one by one. It was a nightmare. But now in California, they've created a one-click tool. One single request goes out to over 500 brokers at once, telling them to delete your data. That is a huge shift in power back to the individual. And all of this leaves us with one final massive question. From AI ethics to data privacy to the security of our basic infrastructure, technology is just moving way faster than the law. So, who should be in charge of writing the rules? The engineers who build this stuff? The governments who are trying to play catch-up? Or should it be us, the people who actually have to live in this new world every single day? That's definitely something to think about.